In this lesson we'll take a look at the if statement, how it's constructed, and we'll look at a couple of different ways of how we enter the if statement into a spreadsheet. I've opened up the if statement worksheet here, and it's a simple worksheet that shows us the results for an exam that the students have taken. So at the top here we've got Billy Jones and he scored 60%. Well, the pass mark is 75 and therefore unfortunately Billy Jones has failed. This is where we want our if statement to be. What we want it to do is to check candidate's mark against the pass mark. And if they've scored a high enough percentage, Excel should display pass in this box here. If they haven't achieved the score, the result will read fail. But before we start to enter the formula, let's just take a little look at how it's structured. It's a formula, so it starts with an equal sign. Then we have the name of the function, in this case if, followed by the open bracket. And the if statement is split into three distinct parts. The first part is the logical test. This is where Excel may well compare one cell against another and see which is highest. The three parts are separated by the comma. So we have two separators in this if statement, separating the three different parts of the actual formula. Once Excel has done the logical test, it will come up with an answer, and that answer might be yes, true, or no, false. And if the answer is true, this is the section that we put what Excel needs to show us. Likewise, in this section, if the answer is false, Excel needs to give me an answer to say that the logical test result was false. So again, logical test, Excel will get an answer and give me one answer if that logical test is true, and a different answer if that logical test is false. So let's switch back to our worksheet and let's start to enter the formula. So the formula starts with an equal sign and the function name, in this case if, followed by the open bracket. Now the logical test that Excel needs to do is to look at this cell in D5 and compare it with the exam pass mark up here in A3. First of all, we'll just use a hard number in our formula, so we won't use a cell reference for this to start with. So we've started our formula equals if open brackets, then we'll type the cell reference that it needs to look at, in this case D5, and we want Excel to check whether it's greater than or equal to 75. And at this point I'm just going to type the 75 in to the actual formula itself. So that's our logical test complete. We now need a separator. So I'm going to type in the comma. So at this point Excel's going to look at D5 and see if it's greater than or equal to 75. And if it is, that would be a true answer. So in the true section of the if formula, we need to type in open quotation marks because Excel will be displaying a text value, and we'll type in pass and close quotation marks. That will be the answer if the logical test result is true. Again, we'll use a comma, and now we need to enter the answer if the logical test is false. And in this case, again, it's going to be a text value, so we'll use open quotation marks, and this time fail. We'll close the quotation marks and then finally close the brackets. So that's our if formula complete. Now if I press enter, we'll see that poor old Billy Jones only scored 60% and therefore failed. Now we can use the fill handle to replicate the formula down for all the other results. So I'll hover my mouse over the fill handle, click and hold and drag down. And you'll see that for each mark that is above 75, or indeed 75 itself, will display a pass. But those marks that are below 75 will display fail. Now because we've used a hard number in our formula, if I double click this one up to bring it up, we used the hard number of 75, and that's embedded in our formula. So if I change the score and drop it down to 65, press enter, you'll see that even though Robert Brown scored 68, it's still displaying a fail. So to correct this, what we'll need to do is use the reference of cell A3 within our formula. So I'm just going to pop that back up to 75, and we'll come to our first formula. I'll double click so that I can edit, or indeed I could edit the formula up in the formula bar. I'm going to highlight the 75 and type in the cell reference for the pass mark. In this case it's A3. So if I type A3, now those of you who've seen the absolute and relative cell referencing lesson will know that we need to make this cell reference A3 an absolute cell because we're going back to a constant here. So to do that, I'll place my cursor in between the A and the 3 and press 4, and the dollar signs are inserted for me. I'll press enter, and again you'll see that Billy Jones has failed. And now when I replicate the formula down, at this point nothing changes, but all the formulas now refer back to this A3 cell. So if I now change this pass mark to 65, when we press enter, Robert Brown should end up with a pass. So I'll press enter, and there you go, Robert Brown's result has changed to a pass. So that's how we enter the if statement, by typing it in. We can also enter the if statement by using the insert function options. So I'm just going to highlight this lot and get rid of them. Let's just place the cursor in E5 again, and now I'm going to switch to the formulas tab. And right over on the left hand side we have the insert function button. And when I click on that one, Excel knows that I want to start creating a formula, and therefore it's placed the equal sign in for me. In the list of formulas, I've got if there right at the top. If you can't see the if function there on the screen already, you can select the category logical from the list, and if will be in that category. So I'll click on if and say OK. And the function's arguments box will pop up. And this contains the 3 boxes so that we can enter the 3 parts of the if formula. So we enter the logical test to start with, the value if true, and the value if false. You'll also see that now I've selected the if statement, Excel is continuing to generate this formula for me. So let's put the logical test in there. And the logical test was to look at cell D5. So I'll type D5. And we want to test to see if it's greater than or equal to that pass mark in A3. So we'll use the greater than symbol and the equal symbol, followed by A3. And of course we need to make A3 absolute. So I'll place my cursor in between the A and the 3. And again I'll press F4, the dollar signs will appear for me. So that's my logical test complete. I now need to tell Excel what I want it to display if the test result is true. And in this case we want it to display pass, but we don't have to use the quotation marks here because Excel will place them in for us. So I'll just type in pass, and exactly the same process for the false answer. I will just put fail, and again Excel puts the quotation marks in there for me. And if I just move this out of the way, you can see the formulas being constructed here. So at this point all I need to do is click OK, and there's the formula. Once again I can take this and replicate it down, and you can see there the candidate's results. Again, Peter Brown scoring 68, he's a pass because currently the exam pass mark is 65. But let's just pop that back up to 75, and when we do we'll watch Peter Brown's result in this cell here. So I'll press enter, and now you'll see that Peter has failed because he only scored 68. So that's 2 ways of inserting the if statement into your worksheets. If you've got the exercise files, on sheet 2 you'll find a second example. So this spreadsheet displays our stock items, in this case some drinks, and the quantity that we currently have in stock. And up in cell C2 here we've got the reorder level. So when the in-stock value drops to the reorder level, in this cell here we need it to display yes to inform us that we need to order some more. Any drinks with a number above the reorder level should display a no next to them. so that we know that we don't have to order any more of those. So place your cursor in cell D7 and I'll let you complete this one on your own.